independent to the most independent girl around. You discipline with your diligence, I respect that. Equal rights for the sexes, we all accept that. Random guys with her number, she might expect that. But if he's out on this grind, she might reject that.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to BossLady News. I've got an exciting show for you, as always. We have a representative from FII, the Family Independence Initiative, Michael Omenazu, who's going to talk to you about some of the amazing opportunities that the members have and that they're doing for the community today. Also, we're going to get a chance to speak with one of your performers, Abe Sierra. I met him through Ivan Sierra, and he's a great performer. I can't wait for you all to also hear him perform. Last but not least, we're going to get a chance to run over to, what's her name? Ayana O'Brien of Fididi Production. Put together an amazing fashion show for some young people and adults. And I want you to keep an eye on her because she'll be doing even more in the community. Thank you for staying tuned to BossLady News. You all know that you can contact me by any of my social media platforms, as well as knowing that you can email me, bossLadyNews@gmail.com. I also want to give a special thank you out to all of my donors and supporters. You all can find them on BossLadyNews.com. Now let's get a chance to speak with Abe Sierra. Abe, why don't you come on out?
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Doing great.
Have a seat.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. This is our first time getting a chance to meet, although I've already heard your music, and I want to say it's amazing.
Thanks.
So, are you originally from the Boston area?
Yes. Originally from the Villa Victoria.
Okay. Oh.
South End.
Yeah. I lived on West Newton Street.
I grew up on West Newton, so originally from there. Pretty much been in Boston my whole life. Now living in East Boston, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And little do you guys know, we actually knew each other when we lived in the South End, so that was kind of cool too. But we just found that out today, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of got you into music?
That's as far as I can remember, I've always been into music. I remember I used to have a little harmonica that my grandfather used to play.
Oh, wow.
Never learned it, but I used to mess around with it.
Right.
Then it wasn't until I was around 13, my parents bought me my first drum set.
Okay.
And that was the time when I decided get rid of video games and just focus on music, and I feel like that was like what sparked it all. So
okay,
I was around 13.
How did you do on the drums also?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good. I actually went to Boston. I don't know if you've heard of Boston Arts Academy.
Yes.
And I was there for percussion and everything. So it was kind of like what led me into exploring other musical routes as far as like writing lyrics, as far as performing and all that. So. I think without that, I would not be doing what I'm doing now.
Where you are today.
So, yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you speak about kind of like writing lyrics, I always like to ask different artists, different performers, when you write your lyrics, where is that coming from?
So just like to give you a little bit of background, I've been writing lyrics since I was in high school, right? Originally, I wrote a lot about my experiences at the time, and pretty much like what I was going through in my life, a lot of it was, having grown up, where I grew up, how I grew up, so the things that I was observing and the things that were going on with me. So that was my inspiration at the time. As I got older and as I got more aware, more politically conscious, more socially aware and all that, I get my inspiration now a little bit different, where now it's not just around the block, where I grew up at, or my neighborhood. It's actually my perspective is also inspired by things I see going on in Latin America, by things I see that are going on in the Middle East, things, a lot of, so I get my inspiration from a lot of world issues, even though I'm still being that I'm, living where I'm at.
From here, yeah.
I still get some inspiration from that and kind of like, mix those two things,
I, for one, want to thank you, just even hearing that you've got a conscious way of thinking in reference to what is going on socially, because we've got artists like Lil Wayne that start off
Yes.
with this conscious awareness, which is what really drives their music, and then the money and the fame kind of changes that.
Yes.
And so I think it's incredible that there's a lot more awakening within the
Yes.
artist that's happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
I feel it's necessary. The thing about art, the question is art. Does it reflect life? Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art?
Right.
And I think is a two-way street where if you create art that's conscious and that's about building something, life is eventually going to imitate that.
Right.
Art is I forgot the name of I believe it was in a Soviet writer. He wrote that art is a hammer that you can shape society with.
Wow.
So that's the way that I try to view it.
Yeah.
You can shape minds. Young people. You want to expose them to other things. Not what you're listening to a lot.
Right.
On the mainstream.
So as an artist, how do you define yourself? How do you define yourself in your music?
I would say versatile. Because besides writing things that are aware, things like that, I also do a lot of romantic music too. I do a lot of and I think that's a lot of versatility. I think
Right.
another thing, I'm also a percussionist, and I think that adds to the way that I flow. Being musically trained, I think that allows me to I see things musically. When I write lyrics, I don't just think about the lyrics. I also see the rhythm, what rhythm I'm gonna use with my voice. And I think that's allowed me to be a little more versatile than perhaps if I didn't have that foundation.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's important, because so many artists, they stick to like one thing, one type of music, one concept,
Yes.
one typical, type of even beat that
Yes.
they always go to.
Yes.
And just knowing that you're the kind of person that's always looking for that versatility within your music, you're going to have a lot of different kinds of listeners, which I'm sure is what you want.
Yo, obviously, yeah. You want to reach as many people as possible. So
Right.
as long as you can hook everyone in, that's one of the main goals.
So how do you flip it? How do you go from like, this is socially what's happening, kind of like hardcore, into this romantic type of,
I think for me, so I feel so. My heart is in hip hop, right? And part of hip hop is having punchlines, having lyrics that have substance to it. And when I transition into, for example, reggaeton, I do reggaeton. A lot of it sometimes is not just rhyming, but also adding hip hop styled lyrics.
Right.
Where I might have a romantic punchline and I'll throw in something where it's kind of like it might be seen as a kind of comedic, but it mentions something, like I'll say something and throw like a hint about what's going on in Palestine, but
Right.
kind of like put some flowers on it and,
Right,
and some
right.
chocolate.
Okay.
So kind of like blend it. So I
Right.
think that's making that switch is easy, because I can add those things into the romantic lyrics and kind of like hide the message within that.
So do you have songs out there where you're doing like an English and Spanish crossover? Where you've got both?
No, so this is the funny thing. I write poetry in English too. I'm not. I don't feel comfortable at this moment rapping in English.
Okay.
I write occasionally English lyrics.
So that's a competition now.
Yes.
That's a test. I'm throwing it out there.
Yes.
Next time you come on, we're gonna want to hear a crossover song.
That would be nice. That's one of the things I need to practice.
Okay, that's your challenge.
Yeah, that's one of the goals now. Yeah.
We're going to cut to a brief PSA, but we're also going to get a chance to see you perform when we come back. So when you perform, do you feel like it's the same person? Do you feel like it's the same, writer, the same lyricist when you're actually on stage and performing?
Yeah, I personally, so for me, the way I view it, it's I feel like and I hope this doesn't sound like arrogant in any way, but I feel when I'm performing or when I'm exposing my music, I'm giving something to the listener that they might need, you know? And I feel that that's the same way that I feel when I write the lyrics. You know, when I'm writing something, like I have a message for you, you know, and that's what makes it different. Like I don't feel like I'm just entertaining. I feel like I'm a man with a message, you know.
Right.
And I feel that same way whether you're reading what I write or whether I'm performing it to you. So I feel it's the same, you know, it's definitely the same.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you, before we take this break, tell us a little bit about the song you're going to be performing?
Yeah, this one's called Haces Falta, and it's actually featuring my cousin Ivan Sierra, who, you know, is a great guy, great singer. He goes by Isma, that's his artistic name. So the song is a romantic song. Music was produced by LES, my best friend who grew up in the Villa Victoria, is actually a musician and a producer. The song, yeah, is a romantic song. It's just, me hace falta, I'm missing you, you know, so that is a romantic song.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm excited to hear it. And we're going to cut to a PSA, and when we come back, you guys are going to see, you're going to see Abe and Ivan Sierra, yes, they are both Sierras, perform Me Haces Falta.
Me hace falta.
We'll be right back.
Otra noche sin ver tu mirada, otro segundo inconsolable, otro minuto sin dormir.
Dile,
La
Iván.
última hora se me hizo tarde, te tuve hasta el fin, quería más y te perdí. Ahora vivo entre cuatro paredes, reconociendo cuánto me haces falta.
Déjale saber.
Otra noche sin ver tu mirada, otro segundo inconsolable, otro minuto sin dormir. A última hora se me hizo tarde, te tuve hasta el fin, quería más y te perdí. Ahora vivo entre cuatro paredes, reconociendo cuánto me haces falta.
Quiero volver a sonreír y saber lo que es vivir. Perderme en tu mirada más y no buscar salir. Quiero regalarte rosas, entre otras cosas. El tuyo permanentemente, ponme las esposas. No sé si es posible, pero en esto trato. Que no contestes en cel y cuando a veces llamo. Hace meses que no hablamos, eso no te molesta, parece que no. Tú sigues de lo más contenta desde que te perdí. El sol se me ha escondido, la luna y las estrellas se han quedado sin brillo. Corazón latiendo, pero aún yo sigo muerto. Pierdo la esperanza mientras va pasando el tiempo. No supe valorarte cuando tuve chance. Te acerca que estuviste ahora fuera de alcance. Para mí era un juego, pero no sabía las reglas. Por eso perdí, hoy otro tiene mi reina.
Otra noche sin ver tu mirada, otro segundo inconsolable, otro minuto sin dormir. A última hora se me hizo tarde, te tuve hasta el fin, quería más y te perdí. Ahora vivo entre cuatro paredes, reconociendo cuánto me haces falta.
A veces hay que perder para aprender cómo ganar. Y tener que luchar para poder apreciar. Son lecciones que la vida nos enseña poco a poco. Pues antes de ser sabio, primero hay que ser loco. Entiendo que te fallé, tienes toda la razón. Pero mi nueva misión, ganar tu corazón. En las noches ya ni duermo, se me escapa el sueño al saber que te has mudado hacia otro reino.
Y así me encuentras, queriéndote sin querer, amándote sin saber, aquí esperando con manos abiertas el día que tú vuelvas.
Vuelve.
El día que tú vuelvas y tú no regresas, no, tú no regresas. Otra noche sin ver tu mirada, otro segundo inconsolable, otro minuto sin dormir. A última hora se me hizo tarde, te tuve hasta el fin, quería más y te perdí. Ahora vivo entre cuatro paredes, reconociendo cuánto me haces falta.
Hey yo,
No,
este es AB Sierra,
no,
Isma,
me
aquí,
hace falta.
BossLady News,
Me hace falta.
LES en la pista. Iván, déjale saber. Mami, este cuento no se acaba hasta que tú regreses hacia mí. El quinto elemento, coming soon.
Hey,
absierra.net.
it's my BossLady News, LES, y'all.
LES en la pista. Ya ustedes saben. Ajá.
I want to thank you guys for coming on. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Ivan. So I've got to ask you, just when you put this song together, did you already kind of imagine what you were going to kind of do with it? Like, how did you come up with it?
Good question. Should I use?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually I don't really remember what the process was. We spoke. LES made us the beat, and we just went into the studio. We had some foundations. He could explain his process. We had some foundations, some ideas, and he came up with the hook. And in the studio, I had some lyrics that I had some ideas from, and then I just tweaked them around just so it could fit.
I mean, he said, like, I asked him what the concept of the song was, and I just started writing like a hook for it, and that was it.
Right,
it was
right.
all history. We got into the studio and we just did our thing.
When it comes to the collaborations, how easy is it to think about like who you want to collaborate with, and how does that kind of come together?
That's a good. See, that's now is a little bit harder. So before I could collaborate. I would feel like freely to collaborate with people.
Right.
Now, as I've grown as a person and as an artist, I feel like I'm more limited because there's a lot of artists in Boston. You know, a lot of especially in the Spanish hip hop reggaeton scene. But there's a lot of messages that are being put forth by a lot of the artists that I don't necessarily agree with.
I like that. I like you have
And I
values in
can't-
your music.
Yeah, and some of them are talented. Some of them are very talented. I just, at the point, I don't feel, you know, some of them I've collaborated with them in the past when I was running Profecia Records, another record label I used to do back in the day. And it was more gangster rap, all that. Now I feel it's a little bit limiting. Not in a negative way, but it's I do have to make sure that the message remains consistent.
Okay. Well, thank you once again. And I want to make sure that we definitely have you back on because we've challenged you officially.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
for a crossover.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
We're going to cut to a PSA.